The Mysterious Vanishing of Emily Harper. The story you're about to hear is a chilling dramatization, a narrative that explores how easily the ordinary can become the unthinkable. It serves as a haunting reminder of the darkness that can hide just beneath the surface of a seemingly perfect life. It's Tuesday, 7:15 in the morning. For Emily Harper, the day is starting just like any other. That methodical rhythm of her life was a comfort, a map charted with familiar landmarks of love, family, and responsibility. For Emily, a loving mother and devoted wife, life was a series of these comforting routines, and her days unfolded with a predictable, gentle precision. But on this one ordinary Tuesday, that routine would be shattered, and Emily Harper would never come home again. The search for her would uncover a dark secret hidden in plain sight, leading to a devastating twist that no one, especially those closest to her, ever saw coming. Welcome to Sleepy Echoes Unwind, where the night remembers old stories. Light your lanterns, slow your breathing, and let us drift together into the hush of the night. Section 1. The Picture of Normalcy. In a small, tree-lined suburb, the kind of town where life has a certain rhythm, no one seemed to embody that rhythm more than 28-year-old Emily Harper. Friends and family would describe her as the reliable one, the person who organized neighborhood potlucks, remembered everyone's birthday, and was the steady hand in a world that often felt chaotic. Her life was the picture of ordinary bliss. Emily worked part-time at the local public library, a job that really suited her quiet, observant nature. She'd been married to her husband, Mark, for 5 years. He was a 32-year-old auto mechanic, a man with grease-stained hands and a tired smile, who worked long hours trying to keep his own shop afloat. Together, they were raising their bright, bubbly 4-year-old daughter, Lily. Emily's entire world revolved around Lily. Her days were a testament to a mother's devotion. A typical weekday began at 6:30 a.m. She'd make breakfast, always pancakes for Lily, her favorite. By 8 a.m., she'd drop Lily off at preschool with a kiss on the forehead and a promise to be back soon. From 9 to 2, she was Mrs. Harper, the librarian who could find any book and always had a kind word. She was well liked by her coworkers, often sharing a friendly chat with Dana, a friend from her book club, or Tom Riley, the library's quiet 45-year-old janitor who had a knack for fixing things and had even worked on her car for free a few times. Section 2. The routine breaks. But just beneath the surface of this idyllic suburban life, tiny cracks were starting to show. The stress from Mark's struggling auto shop had created a subtle distance between them. In conversations with her sister Rachel, Emily had confessed to feeling a little trapped by the demands of motherhood. A common feeling, sure, but one she seemed to be grappling with more intensely in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. One particular Tuesday in October began like all the others. Emily followed her routine to the letter. She woke at 6:30, made pancakes for Lily, and dropped her at preschool. She worked her shift at the library, shelving books and helping patrons. At 3:45 p.m., a security camera at the local grocery store captured what would become one of the last known images of her. In the footage, you can see her in the checkout line, buying milk, diapers, and a small bouquet of flowers. She looks tired, but otherwise completely unremarkable. An ordinary woman on an ordinary day. When she got home, around 4:30 p.m., she was seen by her next-door neighbor, Mrs. Ellis, who was out watering her plants. Mrs. Ellis later told police that she and Emily just exchanged a friendly wave as Emily unloaded her groceries. A little after 5, the same neighbor saw Emily in her garden, tending to her late-season roses. Everything appeared normal. But inside the Harper home, the evening was taking a different turn. Mark arrived home from work around 6, and according to his later statements, a quiet but tense argument started over their finances. The strain of his business struggles had finally reached a breaking point. Around 6:45 that evening, Emily texted her sister Rachel. The message was simple. "Rough day. Need girl talk soon." It was the last message she would ever send. She prepared dinner for her family, and by 8 p.m., their daughter Lily was tucked into bed. What happened in the hours that followed remains a point of heartbreaking speculation. Mark claimed they watched TV together until about 10 p.m., the tension still hanging in the air between them before they both went to bed. Section 3. A mother vanished. The next morning, the familiar rhythm of the Harper household was gone, replaced by a terrifying silence. Mark woke up at 6 a.m. to the cold, empty space beside him in bed. Emily was gone. At first, he didn't panic, thinking she might be downstairs or had gone for an early walk. But a quick search of the house revealed a deeply unsettling scene. Emily's purse was on the kitchen counter. Her wallet, with her ID and credit cards, was still inside. Her car keys were on the hook by the door, and her minivan was parked in the driveway. Her cell phone was on the nightstand, right where she always left it to charge overnight. And most chillingly, her work shoes were sitting by the front door, ready for a day that would never begin. You don't just walk away from your life, leaving every essential piece of it behind. A wave of dread washed over Mark. He checked on Lily and found her sleeping soundly in her room, completely unharmed. There was no note, no message, no sign of a struggle. It was like she had just evaporated from their home in the middle of the night. At 7:15 a.m., a frantic Mark called Emily's sister, Rachel. The panic in his voice was obvious. Rachel rushed over, and together they searched the house and the immediate neighborhood, their calls of, "Emily!" swallowed by the quiet morning air. But there was nothing, no trace. By 9 a.m., they made the call they had been dreading. They reported Emily Harper missing to the police. When officers arrived, they noted no signs of forced entry. The house was tidy, except for an odd, wet spot on the living room couch. Mark explained it was just spilled juice from the night before, an explanation that seemed plausible at the time. The initial police response was measured. It's not unheard of for adults to leave on their own, and they initially treated it as a potential runaway case. But for those who knew Emily, the woman who lived by her routines and adored her child above all else, that theory was impossible to believe. As her parents rushed to the home and Lily began to ask the one question no one could answer, "Where's Mommy?" it became terrifyingly clear that something was terribly wrong. Section 4. A town of whispers. In a small town, news travels fast, and secrets, they have a way of coming out. Within days, the story of the missing mother was on the local news, and Emily Harper's smiling face was on flyers tacked to telephone poles and community boards. "Local mom vanishes from home," the headlines read. The town, once a symbol of suburban safety, was now gripped by fear and suspicion. And as is so often the case, whispers began to spread like wildfire. The police investigation intensified. They canvassed the neighborhood again and again and searched the nearby woods and ponds, but found nothing. Hundreds of tips flooded the station, each one leading to another dead end. With no physical evidence at the scene, investigators and the public turned their attention to the people in Emily's life. Rumors started to circulate, fueled by gossip from her book club and speculation from worried neighbors. The first theory to bubble up? That she'd run off with a secret lover. Some of Emily's friends mentioned she could be flirty and had shared friendly laughs with male patrons at the library. The idea of a hidden affair offered a simple, if painful, explanation. Another rumor suggested she'd gotten into trouble with debt collectors because of Mark's struggling business. But the most persistent and darkest rumor centered on her husband, Mark. Neighbors told police they'd heard the Harpers arguing more frequently in recent months. His demeanor in the days after she disappeared was described by some as shifty and strangely unemotional. He quickly became the primary person of interest, both to the police and the public. His alibi for those crucial hours between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. was that he was asleep, an alibi that no one could confirm. The pressure on Mark was immense. He was hounded by the press. The police brought him in for multiple interviews, picking apart every detail of their marriage and the night Emily vanished. They gave him a polygraph test, which sources close to the investigation would later say he subtly failed. Investigators dug into his financials and found a significant life insurance policy, a standard thing for many families, but one that looked damning in the context of a missing spouse. Emily's own sister, Rachel, consumed by grief and desperate for answers, pushed police to get search warrants for Mark's business and vehicles, convinced he was hiding something. The man who was, on the surface, a grieving husband, was now cast as the lead suspect in his wife's disappearance. Section 5. The twist hiding in plain sight. For 3 long, agonizing months, the investigation was stalled. Winter settled in, and the hope of finding Emily alive began to fade. The police stayed focused on Mark, but without a body or a confession, they couldn't build a strong enough case. The community remained divided, torn between supporting a grieving husband and suspecting a cold-blooded killer. The truth, though, was hiding where no one ever thought to look. It was right there, in plain sight. In January, the police department received a call from the manager of the public library. He was concerned about one of his employees, the 45-year-old janitor, Tom Riley. Tom hadn't shown up for work in days and wasn't answering his phone, which was completely out of character for the notoriously punctual man. Police were sent to his small, isolated house on the outskirts of town to do a welfare check. And what they found would blow the case wide open. Tom was alive and well, but he seemed agitated and unwell. While talking to him in his driveway, one of the officers noticed a foul odor coming from the trunk of his car. When they asked to look inside, Tom refused, becoming defensive and hostile. That refusal gave them the probable cause they needed for a search warrant. Inside the trunk, tucked under a pile of dirty rags, they found it, a bloodied, hand-knitted scarf. Rachel Harper would later confirm it was the scarf she had made for Emily as a Christmas gift the year before. The blood was a match. This one shocking discovery turned the entire investigation completely on its head. Suddenly, the quiet, unassuming library janitor was the new prime suspect. A forensic analysis of his digital devices uncovered a dark and terrifying obsession. For years, Tom Riley had been secretly stalking Emily Harper. His computer contained hundreds of candid photos of her, taken from a distance, walking in the park, getting groceries, playing with Lily in her own backyard. He had created a twisted digital shrine to a woman who barely knew he existed. Investigators found that his platonic friendship was a facade for a deep, voyeuristic delusion. Phone records provided the final, damning piece of the puzzle. Cell tower data showed that Tom Riley's phone had pinged off a tower near the Harper residence at 11 p.m. on the night Emily vanished. He had been there. The quiet man who fixed things at the library, the man so unremarkable he had been completely overlooked, was now at the center of the storm. Section 6. The devastating truth. Faced with the undeniable evidence of the bloody scarf and his own cell phone data, Tom Riley's composure just shattered. And under intense interrogation, he confessed everything. The story he told was more chilling than anyone could have imagined. He explained that his obsession had been growing for years. Their brief, friendly chats at the library fueled his delusion that they shared some kind of special connection. On the evening of October 15th, he had followed her. He saw Mark come home and heard them arguing. Believing this was his chance, he waited. Late that night, long after Mark was asleep, Tom knocked on the Harper's front door. When Emily answered, confused and alarmed, he told her he'd heard the argument and offered a shoulder to cry on. Unsettled, but perhaps seeing him as the harmless coworker from the library, she let him in. Emily vented her frustrations about her marriage, a move Tom tragically misinterpreted as a confirmation of his delusional belief that she was unhappy and secretly wanted to be with him. When he made an advance, Emily was horrified. She firmly rejected him and told him to leave, and it was that rejection that sent him into a sudden, violent rage. In that moment, the quiet, obsessive man became a monster. He attacked her, strangling her in the living room while her little girl slept just down the hall. His confession also revealed a chilling level of cunning. To throw police off his trail, he staged the scene. It was he who had poured juice on the couch, creating the wet spot that was meant to look like a clumsy attempt by Mark to clean up a crime scene. After killing Emily, he drove her body to a remote, wooded area in a state park hours away, a place he knew from his childhood. He buried her in a shallow grave, believing she would never be found. He did everything he could to frame the husband, the man he saw as his only rival. Following his confession, Tom Riley led investigators to the state park. There, with the help of cadaver dogs, they found Emily Harper's remains. The search was over. Section 7. The Aftermath and Conclusion. The resolution of the case sent a new wave of shock and grief through the community. The man who had been the subject of their darkest suspicions for months, Mark Harper, was innocent. The true killer had been a trusted face in the community, a quiet man no one ever suspected. Tom Riley was charged with first-degree murder and kidnapping. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Justice was served, but for the Harper family, the verdict brought no peace. Their world was shattered. Mark Harper, now a single father, had to raise his daughter alone while grappling with the impossible grief of losing his wife and the lingering trauma of being accused of her murder. For months, he had been judged and condemned by his own community, a shadow of suspicion that would follow him for years. Emily's sister Rachel was overcome with guilt and sorrow, quitting her teaching job as she struggled to cope with the loss. And little Lily, now motherless, began therapy to process a tragedy she was too young to fully understand. The family was broken, left to navigate a future that had been irrevocably scarred by one man's hidden madness. A story like this is a terrifying reminder that evil can wear the most ordinary mask. It reveals the fragility of the routines we build our lives around, and how quickly the picture of ordinary bliss can be shattered. The whispers have quieted, but the questions linger. The what-ifs hang in the air, a permanent scar on the town's heart. It's a story about a woman who followed her daily routine one Tuesday, until one day she couldn't. It's a story about secrets and the devastating truth that sometimes the greatest danger isn't a stranger in the dark, but a familiar face you see every single day. CTA. What are your thoughts on a case like this? Share your perspectives respectfully in the comments below. And if you find value in deep dives like this, consider subscribing for more stories that deserve to be told. This story is a tragic illustration of how a community's rush to judgment can obscure the truth, and how the most unassuming individuals can hide the darkest of secrets. It forces us to question how well we truly know the people in our orbit. For the family she left behind, there is no true conclusion, only a life sentence of grief. They are left to remember a loving mother, a devoted sister, and a cherished daughter whose meticulously crafted life was undone by a secret obsession hiding in plain sight. Thank you for joining this moonlit journey. If you'd like to unwind with more tales each week, light your lantern and subscribe. For now, blow out your lantern. we shall meet again.